All right, welcome to season 3, the last episode of H3 Conversations for 2025. We got a treat again this morning. I've got 3 longtime college baseball coaches on, and as those who've listened to these podcasts before know, our goal here is just to get to know these guys and the programs that they run, why it is that they got into coaching, and share this wisdom with people that may have an interest in college baseball. So I'm really, really excited that they've taken a little bit of time out of their Christmas vacation. Coaches don't get a lot of time off. If they get any time off, it would be over the next week. And so maybe for you 3, this is the last baseball thing you have on your agenda for a few days. So anyway, what I'd love to do is kind of just go around the horn here, maybe in the order that I've met you, if that would be okay, and just have you introduce yourself briefly. Who are you? Where do you coach? When did you get into coaching? And just for a slight little holiday treat, maybe what your favorite holiday tradition is: Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. So, Frank Leoni, maybe I'll pass it over to you first.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me. And I can't say it's an honor here just to be with these other 2 guys because, man, they have had my number over the last couple of years. They have just beaten me down. So it's great to see these guys. So thanks for having me. So yeah, I've been coaching for a while. This is my 33rd year, I think, now as a collegiate head coach. Began as the head coach at my alma mater, the University of Rhode Island, back in 1993 was my first year coaching. And now I'm at the head coach at Mount St. Mary's University in Maryland. Been here for 4 years, and yeah, my favorite holiday tradition. I think Matt can probably appreciate this. I'm just guessing, Matt, that you're also a fellow Guinea like me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you are right.
yeah, so you love the 7 fishes on New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, rather.
Christmas Eve, it's already planned. My dad made sure of that the other day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, my wife is from England, so we don't get to do that here very often in Gettysburg. But we have some neighborhood friends here, and I have promised to cook the 7 fishes on New Year's Eve this year. So I'll be the one cooking them. So we'll see if I dumb it down here a little bit for the locals. But
There
that's
you
one of
go.
my favorite traditions.
So that you could dumb it down for our audience too. For those of us who have no
And me.
idea what you're talking about,
It's got to be
could
an
you
Italian
explain
thing.
to me the 7 fishes?
Yeah, so Matt, you can take a crack at it if I mess it up here, but what it's been is just like you choose 7 different fish dishes and you cook it up and you kind of have like a big smorgasbord, like a buffet, and everyone just has at it, you know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
Wow.
you always have, right, Matt, you always have to add some non-fish dish in the room for somebody that's just totally not into it. So
there's always a handful or a couple people who are asking for something else.
yeah,
But
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun tradition, Italian tradition to do.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I know what I'm going to be Googling after this interview. Rob McCoy, how you doing?
Good, good. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you having me on, and it's a pleasure to be on here with these guys too. And I'm Rob McCoy, the head coach at William and Mary. I'm in my 6th month, 5th month. Um, Came from Niagara. Coach Spatafora was my assistant and the only assistant, basically. And this is my 17th year as a head coach, I think. Yeah, 22nd year in coaching. So yeah, it's been a great ride, a great profession for me. My favorite Christmas tradition. I don't know, we didn't really have a lot of Christmas traditions, but I like the time off and I like the coziness of it. So we've got a place down here where we can flip on the gas fire. It looks like a real fire, so that's good. I don't have to find wood. Yeah, so
That's
it's good.
awesome. Yeah. I love me some Williamsburg too, by the way. It's good to have you
Yeah,
here.
we still haven't gone to, maybe Christmas Town is going to be our new. We got to go there. We're probably going to go there after we're actually heading back up to Western New York tomorrow, which
Oh, wow.
it'll be the coldest day of the year for the Bills game on Sunday.
You
Uh,
going?
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I think now, and they flexed it to after dark at 4:25.
Oh
So
my.
that's
Oh
going to
my.
be. I might not make it, honestly. It doesn't. It doesn't take long to adjust to the weather. I remember halfway through the fall, I was like, man, it's chilly today. And I look at my truck thermometer and it was 74. And I was like, I don't think I've ever said those words before when it was 74.
Well, if you
Now,
get there early, don't they normally pay Bills fans to come in and shovel the stadium before the game?
yeah, it's less than hard labor work. Yeah. I mean, it's $20 an hour and they give you some hot chocolate. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but you're not leaving your day job to go do it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They
That's
should
awesome.
get free tickets, is what they should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hot ticket now, though, I would assume. So
Yeah.
I need Josh Allen to get about 60 points this weekend so I can beat my wife in fantasy football.
Oh, do you have him? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I don't know about that. It's going to be chilly, so they probably won't run up the score on him too
They're
much.
playing the Pats, man. Come on.
It's
You've
time
got to
get
be a Pats
retribution.
fan,
I'm
right?
a huge Pats fan. You kidding?
Yeah.
I've been silent for the last 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been a rough one. It's been a rough
stretch. We decided that we're going to replace the greatest coach of all time in any sport with a guy that's never been a head coach before, and we're going to
Yep.
get better results. So,
Yeah. You're not paying him $20 million a year or whatever the old guy used to get, though. He might have been worth it, though.
yeah.
All right. The newest guy that I've met. In fact, we just officially met about 10 minutes ago. So, Matt, how you doing this morning?
I'm great, Jeff. I really appreciate you having on, and I thank Rob for the introduction too, and inviting me to join this great group and just talk some baseball and programs and stuff. And yeah, I'm really excited to be on with you guys. I've been here, so like you said earlier, I think 2011 started as the volunteer and just worked my way up and worked with Rob the whole time. And when he moved on, I was fortunate enough to be given this position to keep the program rolling in the right direction. And that's kind of what my goal is for the time being right now. Started coaching at Arkansas Little Rock, my alma mater. And then I'm Canadian, so there was some visa issues that I had to straighten out before I could get back into the college game. So, my road is a little different than a lot of people, but it ended up in a good spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the seven fishes thing has already been taken. You got to come up with a different tradition, buddy. You can't,
Yeah, no, that's
more.
a good one, and I didn't think about that earlier when you had sent that some of the questions, but like we don't have any traditions, but we go all in on Christmas. Like my house is a winter wonderland. Like lights, the elf is there, two Christmas trees. Every time you turn around, there's some like a Santa or something. So we just go all in for the kids and try to make it fun for them and just have family over. It's a fun time of year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for you guys who maybe don't know about H3 Baseball quite as much as some guys that I have on here, I mean, H3 was an organization that we started 13 years ago. And to be honest, it was Brian O'Connor, who's now the UVA head coach, Jim Ryan, who's now the president of the University of Virginia, and one other local hedge fund guy. We were sitting around, we had a weekly kind of breakfast meeting. And all of us had young kids at the time. This was probably 2010. My oldest at the time was 11. I was coaching Oak's son and President Jim Ryan's son in baseball. We were starting to notice all the problems in youth sports, and we just decided let's create an organization to fix some problems. We didn't define it at the time, but I think it was kind of an interesting start. And as has often happened to me, those guys went on to big and better things, and I got left to run an organization called H3 and build a team. And we've gone through a bunch of different iterations over time. But one of the things that we do, in addition to trying to take advantage, trying to help kids who come from disadvantaged backgrounds have opportunities in the game of baseball, is we want to take care of the coaches who take care of our kids. And Frank, you and I had this conversation standing on the concourse of Liberty University this summer about just how difficult this business is. I think that there are a lot of people who think you guys have the greatest job in the world, and maybe there are days that you do, but it's a hard gig. And I kind of want to go back to the beginning and what it was that got you into it. Again, to the opportunity you probably all played. And I'm guessing the opportunity to stay in the game was pretty alluring, but this is a hard job. Typically, you're not paid all that well when you get started at it either. So, Frank, maybe you could go back to the very beginning and just kind of tell us how you got into it, maybe who inspired you.
Yeah. So I think my road into college coaching is probably a little different than most. So I was actually, after I finished my playing career at URI in 91, I took a job with Ernst& and Young accounting firm. And I was with
Mm.
Ernst& and Young for a year. And the spring of 92, the year after I finished playing, I went to go see those guys play one weekend. I went on a Friday and they weren't practicing. And, they had, I think it was Temple University was coming in to play them that weekend. And, I wondered what the heck was going on. So I ended up, had to leave. There was something happened. I had to leave. I couldn't stay for the games that weekend. But on that Monday morning, I called up my coach and I said, Coach Morris, Dave Morris was the head coach at the time. And I said, Coach, I noticed you weren't playing. We're practicing on Friday, and they had gotten swept over the weekend. I said, I'm thinking about maybe trying to go back into coaching, or get into coaching. This public accounting thing doesn't really mesh with me. So, anyways, long story short, he said, well, just stay where you are. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. I'm 23 years old. He calls me back in 5 minutes and tells me I should put my name in for the head job. He had just resigned. And so lo and behold, URI was talking about dropping the program. Title IX, all that craziness that was running rampant in the early 90s. And so I put my name in for the head job, and it came down to me and a 78-year-old guy. And I think they figured that with the young guy, they could get rid of the program a lot easier. So they brought me in. $5,000 salary. My dad almost had a heart attack. I gave up the job at Ernst& and Young, and I had to move back in with my parents. I will never forget the day that Mike Stone, the former head coach at UMass, you guys probably remember Mike Stone, right? Mike Stone calls me at home. This was before cell phones, and my mother answers the phone. And she yells, "Hey, Frankie, Mike Stone's on the phone." I pick up the phone. I'm horrified, and there's Mike Stone, a guy that I just revered, like this guy revered. Just this guy is just like, he's done it all in the Atlantic 10 at this point. So that's how I got into coaching. My inspiration, I think one of my biggest inspirations, Jeff, was that I thought the program was going to get dropped and I thought I was Superman and I could save it. I didn't
Yeah.
have a 5-year, 10-year plan. I just wanted to save URI baseball. And then as I got going, it just kept evolving, and I just kept digging in and fighting and trying to keep these guys know, because they've gone through it up at Niagara. I mean, you're the also ran up there, like you're just there. They just hope that you don't cause any problems.
Yeah.
And we just kept building it and eventually became Atlantic 10 champions. And that's kind of what got me going. I will tell you this, my two mentors, the guys that helped me incredibly as a young coach who had no coaching experience whatsoever, were Bob Wells, who's a legendary head coach at Frostburg State University. I think he's in
Mhm.
like 6 halls of fame. And then
Wow.
Andy Baylock at UConn. I actually went to UConn my very first semester at college. And I had a sister who had passed away. Andy Baylock was instrumental in helping me through that time and then helped me on to URI. And he stayed with me after I got the job at Rhody. And I mean, shoot, Andy was sending me a mailer just about every week with all of his philosophy. And I still have all his notes and everything. I mean, he's just been awesome. So yeah, that was my road.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Rob, what about you?
Yeah, so I don't remember. Ever since I can remember, I wanted to coach. I think it probably occurred to me in junior college that I wasn't going to be a pro baseball player. So I was like, my mom was an educator, and I liked the helping people, learn, teaching them what I knew and all that kind of stuff. And then I loved baseball. So I kind of started aligning myself. When I went to my 4 year, I started aligning myself to coach, started majoring in things that would help me coach. And so that just basically slingshotted, the career path. I coached at my alma mater for a year, and then I had some people help me, advise me, mentor me. Probably my biggest coaching mentor is a guy by the name of Scott Gines. He had been a coach for a long time, and I was working camps for him back in the day when the Best in Virginia Showcase Camp was one of the only showcase camps there was. And then just meeting all those coaches. There was a ton of Northern coaches. I mean, to this day, almost all the coaches I know, that I haven't coached against, I met at that camp. And so that, I went to grad school at UVA, and then Coach Womack helped me get in at JMU for a year with Spanky McFarland, which was huge for me. And then I went up to Niagara because nobody will hire you unless you have recruiting experience, and you can't get recruiting experience unless somebody hires you. So I wasn't a D1 player. I didn't have an alma mater situation that some people have. So I just took a chance, and I went up to Niagara with a guy that I had met at the Best of Virginia camps, and I was there. I was only going to go up there for a year and cut my teeth recruiting and do such a great job that I was going to get a job somewhere south, and it was going to be super easy. And then, 18 years later, I was still up there. 2.5 years in, I get the interim head job, got the head job, and then sort of like Frank was talking about, I never had a 5-year plan. All I knew is that if I tried to do the best I could and stay in where I was and stay in as long as I could, um, you know, you start out as a young volunteer in 2005, six, and you just last longer than everybody. You just refuse to give up, like
Yeah.
no matter how hard it is, you just keep grinding and believing in what you're doing and learning new stuff. And yeah, so and then we ended up winning the first MAC championship in Niagara history this last year, set the school record in wins, and got an email a couple days after the regional from William and Mary. So the rest is where we're at now.
That's awesome. We were talking right before we started recording that in that year that you spent in Charlottesville, when when you got to know Coach Womack, you actually coached at Charlottesville High School for a year, which a lot of folks in the Charlottesville area, I mean, H3 has Charlottesville origins, and folks will know that high school. What do
Yeah.
you remember about Charlottesville High School?
Yeah, well, I learned a lot. I actually learned a lot. So it was 2 years of coaching Charlottesville High School JV. And I learned a lot from coaching that team because, if Charlottesville has an inner city, like which it does a little bit, that's where the kids come from. And, I was coming from a super strict, like regimented background, never miss, always be on time, that kind of stuff. And, you can't get mad at a kid who missed practice because he had to watch his baby sister because his mom was working 2 jobs. And so
Yeah.
I learned as much from those kids and they were just playing it. They were just playing. One kid ended up, and what's funny is I kind of, the other day a Facebook memory popped up of that team, and I'm like, man, these kids actually really made something out of themselves. Like that kid that was babysitting his little sister ended up playing college football and semi-pro football and yeah, and then there's like teachers and lawyers and doctors, and I'm like that. It was a ragtag group of plus got nothing else to do, so I'm going to play JV high school baseball. And a lot of them couldn't even catch and throw. We
Wow.
worked on
Wow.
play catch every day.
Wow.
So
We
that
were
was
chatting.
fun though.
That's awesome. We were chatting a little bit about the origins of the Charlottesville Tom Sox, the summer team that I have involvement with. And when we were trying to decide where to play our home games in Charlottesville, the reason we chose Charlottesville High School was part of it was originally Charlottesville Tom Sox were originally seeded out of H3, and then we spun them off to be their own nonprofit. But we wanted to be an inspiration to the kids in the urban community. And
Yeah.
frankly, Coach O'Connor and I talked a little bit about this. Like, you know, if you want to inspire the next generation of players, you have to give them a vision for what they can become. And UVA had gotten so good, they almost felt like they were kind of beyond the reach of most kids. And we
Mm.
thought, if we can bring this local team to Charlottesville and populate it with kids from all over the country, kids at Charlottesville High School and the small urban corridor of Charlottesville
Mm.
will get a chance to see that it is attainable, right? And so we set a goal at that point in time to it was actually the second year to always have 5 Division III players on our team. And it was, I don't just take any Division III player. They got to be really good because like we expect to win, and they have to be able to compete with UVA or University of Florida or other SEC players. But every year we wanted Division III players because we felt like, okay, well, these kids that have their fingers in the fences, like these are their heroes that they're looking through the fence to see. And
Mhm.
and we needed them to see that you can become a hero from Marymount University. Or the best player I've ever had in 11 years of doing this came from the College of Worcester, right?
Mhm.
And crazy. The kid ended up getting drafted in the 18th round, and he's still playing pro ball. So anyway, Charlottesville High School. I think that's really interesting connection. Matt, how'd you get into all this?
Yeah, I mean, I started, there wasn't one inspiration, that drove me to coaching. I've had a ton of great coaches over like my playing career. Matt Deggs at Texarkana, and he's at Louisiana now, and Brian Reese and Carl Kuhn at Little Rock and stuff. And then just learned a ton from Rob when I got here, so I could throw him in the mix, even though I wasn't playing at that time. We were learning together as we went through it, but like just love of the game. Like I never really thought about doing anything else besides being in baseball in some capacity. So when it was time to stop playing, I wanted to give back to, I wanted to do it for a job, obviously too, and still compete, but wanted to give back to the players that, were probably in thinking that in that same, realm as I was throughout my career and growing up and stuff. So giving back to them and all the stuff that I learned from previous coaches and family members and everything, that's pretty much why I do it and why I stay in it. And then my parents got me into it when I was, so young, and their like just support as I went through everything is, one of the inspirations as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, the theme of this fall has been raising young men through the game of baseball. And I wonder if you think back to the early days, when did you encounter as coach the first thing that you thought, sure, I'm quite equipped to handle this yet? And then so many years later, because all of you have been doing this for 15 plus years, and Frank, you've been doing it, I think you said for 30 plus years, maybe something this fall that's happened where you thought all of those years have really paid off, because while I might not have been equipped to handle this when I was 23, now things are being thrown at me and I realize, like, I'm here to win games, but I'm also here to make sure that these young men leave better versions of themselves than when they got here. Frank, do you mind taking that kind of back from the early days and maybe something that's happened recently?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would go back all the way like 1994 was like the first time. That was my second year of coaching. And I got the job in 93. They wanted to get rid of the program. They didn't decide, URI's administration didn't decide to retain the program until May of 93. So you can imagine by then, all of the few good players I had were all transferring. Um, so we kind of hadn't recruited anybody, because who are you recruiting to a program you don't even know if you're going to have the following year? So we kind of grabbed who was left, and it's a true story. My starting second baseman in 1994 had 5 at-bats his entire high school career, and he was my starter in 94. If you go back, if you Google it, you'll see that we went 239-1 that year. The only team we didn't lose to that year was Central Connecticut. We played a doubleheader. We beat them in the first one and tied them in the second game. I have no idea why they were that bad that year, but we were really bad. And I just remember one weekend, we're at St. Joe's conference weekend, and I have one good pitcher on the team, and we're beating them in game one. It's a 7 inning game. It's the fifth inning. And this kid's pitch count's running up. And you guys know this, right? You can see he's like losing it, And I look down and it's like, who the heck am I putting in this game right now? We actually have a chance to win this game, to build these guys some confidence. I have nobody put in. And so, long story short, this guy doesn't last. He ends up straining his forearm. We pull him out of the game. We lose that game, get swept. But that night in the hotel, I called up the athletic director from the hotel. And to this day, if you talk to him, his name is Ron Petro. He's the guy that hired me. And I said, Ron, and he said, I thought you were going to say, I resign. Um, I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, you can't. They had taken all our scholarship money away, by the way, after that first year. I said, you're putting us on these nice buses, putting these in nice hotels. Wouldn't it be good to just put some talent on that bus to go to these places? So I wasn't sure I was equipped to keep going. Again, like, I didn't have this long drawn out plan. I just was trying to save it. And now I was second guessing myself. Like I gave up this other job and, you know, I didn't come here to get a beat down. I think at one point we had lost like 28 straight games or something like that. Imagine that. Like
Wow.
it's a beat down mentally. So anyways, it made me tougher. It helped me in negotiating. Here I am at that point, I'm 24 and I'm negotiating with my athletic director, right? And you're putting your foot in the ground, right? And you're being stubborn and you're fighting for like what do we need here to at least exist and then get better. And it was incremental, right? It wasn't like they just all of a sudden they showered me with full scholarships or anything like that, but it taught you to keep fighting. And I always had the work ethic, I felt like, but now it was like, it was really put to test. Like, are you going to quit? Are you going to have a spine and move forward? What you got a choice. I tell the guys all the time, if you talk to my players right now, they'll tell you this. I say, you got two choices when you wake up in the morning. You're either going to compete or you're not going to compete. It's that simple. And I said, and it starts with making your bed. You make your bed, you have one win right there. So anyway, so fast forward to this fall, you asked that part of the question, and I know you're aware of this. We had a really difficult situation that unfolded this year. 3 weeks into school, one of our freshman pitchers, probably would have been a weekend guy for us, committed suicide. And there's no blueprint, there's no playbook for this one. But I do think that the years of experience, the relationships, the people side of it, what really matters is the people, right? And that's why we're all in this. Like, we all want to win every game, but it's about the people and the people we're trying to build. And now they're all looking at you. They're turning to you as the leader to put some perspective, just wrap yourself around it at some level to help these guys get through arguably the most difficult time in their lives. Many of them, our first semester freshmen, and one of their brethren just took his own life in the dorm, in the bathroom, in the dorm where most of these guys were showering, and for us to have that happen and for the coaches to try to rally around that and try to help these guys, it really did. It proved that, you have resolve that you don't even realize you have inside of you. If your heart's in the right place and you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll find that resolve, and it'll help you to pull through in situations that are impossible, because I don't wish it on my worst enemy. It's just impossible to deal with. But we got through it in a funny way. I think it did bring us closer as a group. And now, hopefully we can continue to honor Alex's memory as we move forward.
Thanks for sharing that. We talked about this, and I spent a little time with his parents this fall, and I felt like I cried for 2 weeks after that. I mean, it's not the first time it's happened. It's not going to be the last time. This is a problem in our society. But through it all, I know you were the right guy to walk those guys through it. I'm convinced. Everybody that I've talked to said, if anybody's going to be able to pull their team through it, Frank's going to be able to do it. And I don't wish this upon you. I wish it had not happened, but I'm really glad that you've gotten to the other side of it. And they're, again, as you say, these men will be better for having gone through something, realizing that they can go through really, really tough things. We'll never know why it happened, but anyway, thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate
Rob,
that.
what about you, going back to the beginning and maybe something modern day?
Yeah. Well, that's tough to follow. I'm sorry to hear about that, Frank. That's tough news. It goes through your mind as a coach if you're ever going to lose a player or anything like that. And, I've been blessed so far, knock on wood, that I haven't really had to deal with it. For me, there were two sort of points for me. Spat was there for both of them. The first one was, I think it was 2011. Was that the year when 840 Spat?
No, that was before I got.
Okay, yeah. So once you got there, it got better.
We've never gone 11-40 without Spat. Anyway.
Yeah. So 2011 we went 8-40. Now, some of those 8 wins were actually quality wins. It was our first ACC win um, against Virginia Tech, and we had a five run comeback, and then in the 13th inning against Manhattan at home. So there were some good parts, but we went 8-40, and similar to Frank's story, like I'm sitting overall my first however many years, first probably 6, 7 years, overall record was atrocious. Sometimes a conference record was atrocious. And so, you know, I got I got to a point, I'm sitting in the hotel, similar situation, and we had changed ADs. And I texted the AD that hired me. And I was like, hey, you got time to talk in the morning? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Give me a call in the morning. Or I said, you have time to talk now? And he said, give me a call in the morning. So I slept on it and I woke up and I'm like, I'm not going to call that guy. Like he, I know what he's going to tell me because I was going to ask him, I'm like, what do I do? What do I have to do to get out of here? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not going to be able to do this. When I took the job, I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to turn this program into the best. I'm not leaving here until I can look myself in the mirror and say that I've done every single thing possible I could do to make this program a winner. So I slept on it, and I knew if I actually called him, he would say, "You have to win. If you want to leave, you have to win."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and at the time, I was like, "We're not going to win here at Niagara." And so I kind of pulled myself up a little bit by my bootstraps because I'm like, I'm not calling a guy and asking him how to get out of here when I know the answer. And so we kind of that kind of set the tone for sort of my it kind of flipped a switch for me in terms of starting to learn on a yearly basis. Like one thing I've always been blessed to be good at is I take full responsibility for what happens in my program after each year. I take basically a whole week after the season and I think about every single thing we did and what could be different and what I need to learn and how we got beat and the school of hard knocks type of thing. And so that carried forward until 2015. And Spat, you'll probably remember we're riding back from one of our bus trips, and the bus was like we had to take it. I don't even know if it was a conference. I think it was the last conference weekend, and there was no air conditioning on the bus. They messed up our bus. We got the wrong bus. It's too small, and there's no air conditioning, and it's a 7 hour ride, and it was at the end of the season, so it's hot, and everyone's miserable. We just got the crap kicked out of us by a team that honestly I thought we were more talented than. And I was like, something's got to change here, man. Like we have to do something different. So you guys might be familiar, but I called Brian Kane um, because I'd seen him in our conventions and stuff like that, and I had teased the idea because I'm really big on the mental game, and I had master's degree in sports psychology, so I was like, we're just not getting what we need to get out of these guys. So Kane comes in and it's fall of 2015 and completely blows up our entire program. I sat there, Spat and I sat there, but mostly me because he was always just doing basically what he could, and I was in charge of the program and listened to him destroy everything we were doing and why we were doing it in front of the team. But I knew I had the right guys to listen to that and be responsible about it. And I basically just looked at the team and go, look, I've got to get better. I'm asking you guys to get better, so I'm going to get better. Um, and that's when we hit the reset button on basically our entire program. And the first year was tough, but from 2017 on, we were just constantly building our culture and our team. And I had a ton of clarity about where we were going and how we were going to get there. And I've personally never looked back from that.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then so for this fall, I always thought to myself, now I didn't job hunt while I was at Niagara. I only applied for one job my entire time there. And frankly, like last year was the year that I finally said, nope, I'm here. I'm gonna be like Tony Rossi. I'm gonna be here 40 more years, and
Yeah.
this is where I'm gonna retire. And it didn't work out that way, but anyway, like um, so from that perspective, but I thought in the back of my head, I'm like, man, if I just get another opportunity to go somewhere take all the stuff that we do, the system that we now have, and impart that in a new situation. It would just be fun to, you know, reach a new group of guys like that. And so
Oh, yeah.
that's why it was super special for me this fall to bring in the stuff that we had so much success with at Niagara, and just see like the breath of fresh air that was breathed into these guys here when we marrying the team, and the direction, that we're headed. Like Frank said, I have no idea if it's going to equal wins and losses. I believe it's going to equal wins. But more importantly, it's developing young men, it's developing leadership skills, it's mentoring, it's self-regulation. It's all those things that's going to make them better over time.
Do you still use Brian Kane at all in the work that you do?
Yeah, we use a handful of things from him that
Yeah,
we've over time, we've found the way it works for us.
yeah, yeah.
So we follow, yeah.
One of my board members for H3 is Brandon Geyer, who some of
Yeah.
you may know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've talked a little bit about Brian Kane and what he's done over the years. And Brandon's done a fantastic job of carving out a niche for himself too.
Yep.
He was actually on the phone call last night as I was interviewing 4 players who have just finished their freshman falls. And it was fun to hear him talk about kind of mentally, were you ready to succeed at the next level? Anyway, Matt, what about you? I never know whether to call you Matt or Spat. I mean, now that
You
because you're
can
always
whatever.
following.
Either way is good for me.
I
Either
kind of
way is
like I kind
perfect.
of like Spat. Kind of like
Spat.
Spat.
It's very
Yeah.
easy to remember. Sticks in your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
We have a spat on our staff now too.
I
You
know. I
do.
know.
Yeah.
Been in the
Yeah.
conference for a while.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah,
Wow.
Spatty for sure. But yeah, like I'll take it away from the field a little bit, and like it happens almost like every year, and I still, or me, this is the way I feel about it. You still never know if you're ready for it or if you're delivering like the right information. It's like a double-edged sword. When a player comes in with like a personal issue or a relationship issue or a health, whatever it is, they feel comfortable to come in and talk to you about it. But then always in the back of my mind after the conversation is over, I'm like, did I give him what he needed in that conversation? And like, did I steer him in the right direction? And was he like fulfilled with coming in here and he didn't leave and he's thinking like, man, what the heck did my head coach just tell me about what was going on in my life, right? So for me, those are like the biggest things that I think about when it happens,
Yeah.
like off the field stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to end with kind of what your hopes are for the coming year, right? But I want to touch upon some of the, I don't know, the news of the day, right? I mean, I feel like whether I'm on the phone with a coach or a parent or a player, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to talk about, 34-man rosters or transfer portals or NIL. And then, the news that hit yesterday about, JUCO years perhaps won't count towards your 4 years of college eligibility. And I don't care how we do this. I mean, I just maybe go around the horn and just talk a little bit about, I mean, you've all been in this thing a long time and it's changing. I mean, I feel like we now have generational change happening about every 6 weeks. And I just like to hear you talk about some of this, Frank. Maybe you kick it off and pick one of those subjects, or maybe just talk about the overall landscape, however you want to handle it.
Yeah. So just for me, and I'm sure the other guys, I know Niagara's dealt with it too now. I can't speak for William and Mary because I'm not really sure there, but we're 4 days after our conference tournament, and we had one of the best years in Mount St. Mary's baseball recent history. Made it to the conference semifinals. Of course, Rob and Matt beat us in the semifinals, and then we lost to Fairfield to get knocked out. But 4 days after that conference tournament, I got 7 returning potential starters that tell me they're transferring. And I'll be honest, I was beside myself for about 2, 3 days there. I was on my pity potty, like what the heck is going on? Like I never thought this was going to hit us. I knew the Sharon kid was going to leave. LSU came and picked him off, and they were picking him off back when we were at Mississippi State during the year. So I understood that one, but the other 6 guys was like, wow, it was like a shot across the bow. So then I quickly pivoted after those 2 days and said, you know what? It's a new game. Old dogs got to learn new tricks. this is the landscape. This is what we got. We got to go out and we got to find guys that want to be here. And so, then we hit the portal and we go after the JCs. And of course, I didn't have a summer running around to college games all summer long and whatnot. But we found some really good players, really good players. And I feel like, although I think this is the part that I think all of us are going to be dealing with at the mid-major level, is it's going to be hard to have continuity on your rosters moving forward. As soon as you get players and you develop them and get them to be to a level where they're pretty talented, it's a good bet that there's going to be someone that's going to come and grab them. Hopefully not, but we try to keep loving them, keep developing them. I mean, you can't change what you do as a coach, but the recruiting game is changing. And how you go about constructing your roster every year. So is it going to change again considerably with the 34-man roster? I mean, no doubt about it. And, I think all of us would agree. Rob, I was at William and Mary, right? I had some junior college transfers in there. You're not going to get a lot of them probably at William and Mary, but you're still going to have to dip into some of those pools because you can't go up against teams that are running 23 to 25-year-olds with a bunch of 17 and 19-year-olds. You just can't do it anymore. If you expect to have success. It's really an unfortunate situation, but bottom line is we're still in the people business. We're still trying to develop people. We're still trying to help them get, experience, have a great experience, have value added to them, and then help them get somewhere in life, whether it's professional baseball, whether it's helping them to transfer somewhere else. It's funny. At one point I said, you know what, we've just become a glorified JUCO at Mount St. Mary's. And maybe that's our role now. Maybe that's what we have to be. But whatever it is, we still have a job to do to help these kids and help them develop, help them have success in their lives. And that's what it's all about. Obviously, we all want to win. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I'll be ready to jump off a bridge if we're not winning. But the bottom line is these kids and helping them get where they want to be.
Yeah. Well, at least you have that 2-win season to call upon when it's not working well. You can always go lower.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Rob, how you dealing with this? I mean, you're kind of an interesting spot because you've just come from a program that you built up from basically the ground floor, and now you're kind of rebuilding a William & Mary program as, frankly, they're stepping into a bigger and bigger world right there, right? So you're playing a ton of big name schools, even in conference now, and wonder how you're thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. The one thing I'll say is, and Frank sort of hit on it once he, after a couple of days of dealing with it. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind for us as coaches is, or parents or recruits or whatever, is like, you can complain about this all you want, but you're just going to be yelling at the clouds. Like, this is a train headed downhill right now. Like, as soon as, a judge makes a ruling like that, and then you think about it, you're like, okay, so when did junior college start taking eligibility away from being Division I player? And you're like, why does that happen? Like, what difference does it make? How does the NCAA even have anything to do with junior college? And I'm sure back in the day, it all started out with a fairness or something like that. And I get that, but these rulings that are being made are like, they're common sense. We may not like them, but they're like, yeah, I mean, if you're not in sports and you're not used to this, and you're a judge or you're a lawyer, you're like, this makes no sense. Like, 4 years of revenue sharing, if you stop a kid from making money for 2 years because you say junior college eligibility counts against them, then that's an antitrust issue, right? Like, it's the law. So people can stop complaining about it because it's not going to change anything. So to Frank's point, like, we just have to figure out where we fit in all of that now. And you do have to take care of your people. Like, I said from the day one of the transfer portal, well, actually not day one. I told Spat the year before the portal, we knew the portal was probably going to open. I said, if they start allowing transfers again, I'm quitting, because I'm not going to spend all summer recruiting my current team and replacement players. And then we were working on our culture stuff and our team, and we were wrapping our head around that at probably the perfect time because what I found was I actually liked the portal. I feel like it forced us to be more creative and find ways to, I don't know, sort of. I believe every kid wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And you're always going to have guys that, leave for whatever their reasons, right? Like money or whatever. But to keep a core group of guys and give them an experience that makes them want to be a part of it. And then if you do have openings, they're like, hey, my buddy's leaving, let's bring him in too. Some of our most successful portal guys bringing in were friends of guys on our team that said, hey, we got something going on here. Let's come be a part of that. And so the combination of all that, it forces you to find a way. So how do we take care of our people? How do we get them to, believe in something bigger than themselves, but yet still, be disciplined and teach them how to be men and all that kind of stuff. And so it's been an interesting journey from that perspective, but it's all changing. I mean, imagine a world where, your junior college doesn't count anymore. So almost every kid would go there. And so now we're recruiting out of junior college and we're recruiting out of portal. And at William and Mary, like we're not like it's really hard to get junior college kids in. So what happens? I don't know. I can tell you, I'm going to do everything I can to figure it out and get out in front of it. But from that perspective, I think it's just a matter of getting creative and trusting yourself, believing in what you're doing and how you're treating people and how you're running your organization. Because from the beginning of time, people want to be a part of a fantastic organization, whether you're keeping them there or whether you're bringing them in. You're always going to lose some guys, but can you bring in more guys that want to be a part of that? And so, yeah, that's kind of how I view it. There's unprecedented times. I don't know how, like, I honestly don't know how we can put the cat that just got out of that bag, there's no way we're putting that back in. Once we start revenue sharing and kids start making money, you can't limit somebody's ability to make money. And once the NCAA first said that, but then I'm sitting here thinking like, this could go a number of ways. So kids can't get into William and Mary because of progress towards a degree. All right. Well, why? Well, progress towards a degree keeps you from transferring, and not transferring keeps you from making money. So you got to get rid of progress towards a degree because you can't limit somebody's ability to go in. So pretty soon you're going to throw all the school out the window. You're going to throw all the transfer regulations out the window. You might throw the eligibility out the window because if a kid stays in college, like you even said, Jeff, at some point you have to get a job. Well, what if their job is making NIL money because they're super good at playing football, right? In college.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a job now. And it's only a matter of time before that becomes a reality. So, but the landscape of the NCAA and especially college baseball, when those basketball and football players get these things figured out and they go through the court system, and some baseball players and whatever, then, who knows what's next. Like we had a kid from COVID who had 12 at bats at the University of Washington his freshman year during COVID. That kid couldn't get an extra year of eligibility. Like that's why the NCAA has opened themselves up to this crap, because that's asinine. You say kid got 12 at bats. His coach decided to put him in 12 games, didn't even travel him, and he got 12 at bats, and that kid can't play a whole year. Like right. That's why the NCAA is losing the credibility they're losing, right? So
yeah,
that's
totally agree. I mean,
that's my
I've thought about that particular issue a number of times, just simply because we've got this arbitrary rule that if you're an NCAA football player and you play in 4 or less games, you can have another year. Like
in one sport, no one else.
Yeah. Crazy.
So anyway,
we'll have a whole podcast on fixing the NCAA one day. I bet you all have some things to add. Spat, what about you and how you're dealing with kind of all these new things?
Yeah. So my personality, and Rob knows this, is like I pretty much roll with everything, and I just figure out a way to handle it with like the situation that you're dealt with. So I look at it in a number of ways. I think they've changed like all college sports, and it's basically professional athletics, right? So it's free agency every year. So to keep guys, we build a good culture and we make it a brotherhood. we try to win games too. Obviously, that's a huge part of it, development, moving guys onto pro baseball. But it always comes down to their choice, right? If they want to move on to whatever they want to move on to, whether I agree with it or not. And I have strong opinions on it from the people that have left the program that Rob and I had built here. That's a story for another day. But if you think the grass is greener, then you might as well take that opportunity because your feet are not going to be present
Mm,
if you
yeah,
stay in the school that you're at. So it's going to
yeah,
be even a worse situation for you. Where either you're going to be miserable or you're going to have 25 at bats. It's the bed that you made, right? So you have to sleep in it. But I will say, like on the other side of the portal, Rob brought it up. Like the three guys we got from the portal last year are all playing professional baseball out of here from NU, and they were like cast off guys from programs where they just weren't, valued enough,
yeah,
right? So in that aspect, it's helped us. And I don't know this for sure, like 100%. So I should probably like, check the value of this statement. But the guys that leave our conference, they don't automatically get drafted because they leave the conference. Frank's going to have a guy, this year. Obviously, he has that ability. But just because you leave somewhere and go somewhere else where you think you're going to get better developed, it's not an automatic, I'm getting drafted, I'm going to be an all conference player. The list is endless, right? So, yeah, that's why I just roll with it. And I find guys that want to be here and guys that want to stay, guys that want to buy into what we're doing. It helps for baseball career, it helps with career after the field, right?
yeah.
So that's kind of how I deal with it daily, you know.
When kids ask me, and frankly, it's more often parents that ask me, how do we navigate this world when we don't know what tomorrow brings? And my typical answer, and one of you said this, is you be incredible where your feet are today. You know,
Yeah.
if you're great today, that means you're going to take care of the things that you need to do. You're going to send the email to a coach you need to send. You're going to get in the weight room. You're going to eat the calories. You're going to get your homework done. And frankly, it all starts with one of you said, kind of making your bed. That speech that guy gave, a decade ago. My son listened to it every day for a year. Right? Just one success at the beginning of the day, ultimately breeds other successes throughout the day. And if you are successful when you put your head down at night, you probably are going to be great for Niagara if that's where you are. And if for some reason Niagara is not the right place for you, go be great somewhere else. And you, Spat, got to be great too for
Oh,
Niagara
yeah.
and for yourself, right? If that kid's not meant to be here, you go find the next guy that's meant to be there, right?
No doubt. And the
That's the
guys,
way you handle it.
yeah, and the guys, they sense that and they feed off that too, where,
Yeah,
because they talk all the time, right? If they
yeah,
convince a kid to stay or something, and then he's not fully bought in for that year, and
yeah,
there's tension and drama and everything, it just creates like a bad culture, right? And
yeah,
it all
yeah,
starts with culture. So if you don't have that strong culture to begin with, then you're just
yeah.
fighting an uphill battle every week. So, yeah, that's kind of how I'm dealing with it.
And I can
I remember
attest to
about,
that too, real quick, Jeff. Like the
yeah,
team that these guys built over the 2 years that I've competed against them, I mean, they were super talented. Let's make no mistake about it. Niagara was a very talented team the last couple of years, especially last year, but they had the intangible. And you knew
mm,
every one of those kids were all bought in. I mean, just when you played them, when we played them at their park last year, those guys were like, there's no way these guys are beating us. And we're not letting Mount St. Mary's come up here and even win a game. We're beating these guys. We want to give them a beat down. We got to the conference tournament. We played you guys in the winners bracket final. I think we were up like 3 or 4-0 in the middle innings, and you could just see there's no panic over there and whatnot, right? And this is what we all aspire to build: is that they just knew it's just going to take time, a little bit longer than we thought this time, but they were all in all the time, and they came
that's
back and they
awesome.
beat us in that game. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's
That's
what you're
awesome.
looking to build.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hey, we're close to the wire here, and I typically tell everybody an hour, but I'd love maybe for you guys to send us out just talking a little bit about your hopes for the spring. I mean, Christmas break gives us a time to pause and reflect on a bunch of things, but your baseball coaches who are getting ready to embark on a 56 game schedule coming up in the spring, and I'd love for people to kind of know what to expect of your programs at this point in time. I know you can't predict wins and losses, but what do you love about what you got right now? Frank, you want to?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so some of the stuff that I think that, we were struggling for a while at the beginning of last year. We were really struggling. And then we kind of turned it on at the end. We had a kind of a come to Jesus moment after we had played one of our series in April. Um, and what we discovered was there was a lot of internal bickering and selfishness and cliques and things like that. And again, these guys have talked about culture. I mean, over the years, I've put X's and O's aside. I'm not going to bore you with how much stuff we do with our culture, but we do a lot of intentional things that these guys are talking about, right? The feel that we have on this team this year, from the second we stepped on campus, and then obviously the tragic event that we all experienced, it's a different feel. These guys are hungry. You can see it. We're the most deep talented talent wise. We don't have any guys like the guy that was the MAC Rookie of the Year last year. We don't have any pitchers like that this year, but we have more depth throughout our staff and on the team as a whole. And the guys genuinely, you can see that they genuinely enjoy being with each other. One of the things that you guys are probably going to laugh at this. One of the things that one of our returning players who stayed with us, again, right? The guys that stay, the guys that want to be there, right? So I always ask, like Rob said earlier, you do the evaluation after the year's over. Where can we be better? And so I always go to my stakeholders. I go to the players. It's not just my own internal review. I want to see what they think. You guys would be amazed at this questionnaire I put together. And I basically asked these guys to rip me a new one. All right, where do we need to be better? And one of the things these guys said was, Coach, you don't give us enough time off in the fall to actually just bond as a team. We're always going, 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 and we never take time to get to know each other. And I think that's a big problem that we had this past year. So, you know what we did this year? We gave them a lot of Sundays off in the fall. Right, guys? You guys are looking right now, right? What do you think Saturday night was like when they knew they had Sunday off? Right?
A
And
lot of
so
bonding.
yeah, a lot of bonding and a lot of other things too, right? But I think that it helped. I really do. I see that these guys are closer. They have more energy when they come to the park. And so I'm excited to see how it will all kind of play together. And we're doing something crazy in the MAC this year. These guys know this. We're playing 10 weekends. So the fourth weekend of the season, we're playing conference games. So we're hosting a conference weekend. It's snowing right now outside the window here, and we're hosting a conference game on March 7th. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'm excited to see how it all comes together. It's a new feel here at the Mount, and I'm excited for it. I really am. I haven't been this energized in a while.
Love that. Love that. Rob,
Yeah,
what about
that's
you?
awesome. Honestly, I told the guys at the end of the fall, I said a win for me would be for like complete buy-in come June, right? So I've got 5 years here. I'm gonna bet on myself and my staff and what I think we're capable of from a sort of a directional, like our philosophies, our culture, all that stuff. And so to get them, because one of the biggest changes that we've made over the years is just to be like completely 100% unabated process oriented. Okay. So
Mm,
like the game should end and you shouldn't really know what the score is because you're so focused on the process, right? You're
mm,
so focused on the next pitch and all that. And so, these guys are quite outcome oriented, as you could imagine. And so if we get to June and I've properly brainwashed them into being process oriented and understanding how to play the game one pitch at a time, as cliche as that may be, it works like crazy to the point where, one of the greatest compliments I could have is what Frank just said about playing against us is you can't tell whether we're up or down. And if you usually when you're down 4 or 5 runs, you can tell the other team knows they're down.
mm,
And last year's team, you literally couldn't. I mean, we gave up 5 runs in the top of the seventh inning to Fairfield in the championship game, and scored 8 in the bottom of the inning.
mm,
We didn't panic at all. And so that's a win for me. I don't care what we do on the field, results wise. I'm not going to care next year. And probably year 3, I'm going to start carrying. And then year 4, when it's contract year, I'll start carrying a lot. But by then we should have, focused on the process so much that we're not getting caught up in who we play, how good they are, how bad they are, how good this pitcher is, and all the things that you don't want your players thinking about. Because at the end of the day, if you've got the right players and you have the right approach and you have the right culture and you've practiced and you've trained them, none of that matters except how you play against the ball.
I love that. Love that.
How
Hey,
not who,
before I,
guys? How not who, right?
oh,
It's how you rearrange those
Yeah, there you
letters.
go. Yeah.
no, no, dude, that's great. I'm writing that down. And I have to say, before I lose the opportunity, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question that Matt's been dying the whole podcast to ask, and that is, Rob, what the heck are those wicker baskets that are over your shoulders? Because they're really artistically designed.
Yeah, so this is my wife. So I wanted to show off my wife's decorating of our house here. So
Oh,
as I was thinking about where to sit for this, because that's always in the background
yeah, yeah.
what you're looking at, I thought I would, I'm hiding the mirror a little bit,
Oh, yeah. Well, it
but
shows the back of your head. Yeah,
she did a great job though. And
she did a great job.
I see in your background that the our one of our top shortstop recruits that we didn't get. So
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't
that's
think about that
grinding
at
me.
all.
That's grinding me
And
as
you know
I'm.
what? If I turned the camera around, you'd see the 3 guys that you did get, actually.
Oh, okay, do
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My entire wall is filled with these kids' graphics. And my wife says, "What the heck are you doing?" But when I'm sitting here, and I don't care whether I'm on an investment call or a UVA hospital board call or a H3 call, it's fun to just think about these kids and their stories and all that they've been through. I was telling those kids last night when I interviewed them after their first semester, most of them I met when they were 14 or 15, and they couldn't put two words together, let alone a sentence or a paragraph or a conversation. And so to think about a Will Yao or somebody like that, right? And to think how far that kid is coming. And by the way, just be nice to him, right? In the world we're in today, he might be playing for you in 2 years. Who knows, you know? You just
That's not
never
lost
know.
on me, buddy.
I'm sorry. I would have taken that down, though. I did not mean to rub salt in that wound. So,
Yeah, I've been
anyway,
staring at it the whole time.
yeah. Well, maybe I'll try to change it. Right. Spat, how
Yeah.
about you? What do you think for this coming season?
Yeah, it was funny that Frank brought up like the team building and stuff because like we have 23 new players this year and our roster right now is 32. So you can like imagine like learning everyone's name like from the ground floor we did it this fall, right? So I told my assistant like we might as well just learn how to play together and not worry about one thing baseball wise this summer until everyone gets as comfortable around each other as they can and they like come together as a brotherhood or it's not going to matter, right, with all these new guys. So we really focused on that in the fall with team building, and going out different places together as a group. And then obviously, practice was practice, right? You're always going to work on the baseball stuff, but we really had to really focus on building them together and as a team instead of just a bunch of new 23 individuals. And it worked. Like they hang out together. It's a really strong, close-knit group of guys. So that's what I'm most excited about is to watch them compete for each other.
Mm,
And see how they do that together because it's pretty special the way they came together with being all new from all over the country. Like when you lose that many guys a month and a half before school starts, you have to recruit from California to Florida to Washington. So to bring them all together and try to mesh them all together, that was like our biggest goal
uh,
in the fall.
yeah.
I got these 2 guys being in the top 4. Both of them will be in the top 4 again in the MAC here this year.
Mm, mm,
Beauty.
mm. Sounds
Appreciate
good.
that. We'll see.
I'll send in my, hey, Frank, you should see how close my coach's poll was last year.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty close.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
Huh.
Good. Well,
I'll do it again this year.
write out your predictions. Yeah, send them out.
Guys, I can't thank you enough. I'll go back to the beginning, and the theme of this fall, which we'll close down and we'll come up with another good one, is raising young men through the game of baseball. And I've said this to other coaches, and I'll say it to you because I truly mean it, and I mean it more now than I did an hour ago. When we as parents send our kids off to play for people that we really only know through the recruiting process. You just hope that they're the types of men that will help you finish raising their sons. That was the advice that Carl Kuhn actually gave me in 2015 when my son was in his own recruiting process. And he ended up going to Davidson to play for Dick Cook, who was exactly that type of guy, right? Now, Dick retired a year later. But anyway, Rucker Taylor's that kind of guy too. And I just wanted you guys to know that if I had a son and he was looking to go play college baseball, you're the type of people that I'd want helping me finish raising my own son. And I can't give you a higher compliment. So thank you for what you do. And more importantly, thank you for how you do it. And just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is that we're supposed to say these days. So,
Thank
all
you,
right.
Jeff.
Appreciate
That's
you,
awesome,
Jeff.
man. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jeff.
you guys,
Looking forward to working with you more, man.
you as well.